The sun had hardly cleared the tops of the roofs when the bright report of a nail gun cut through the typical suburban silence. I jumped, thinking I would be hearing kids on bikes or the gentle roar of sprinklers. Not that. But before the report had even died away, a piercing cry cut through the air. "Stop that building right now, or I'll have the city knock it down myself." I swung around to watch her, a woman in neon pink tracksuit, oversized glasses perched on her nose, striding up my driveway like a general advancing on an enemy position. Gripping a tablet in her hands as if it were a weapon, she was already taking photos of the permit planted in my front yard. That was Linda Voss, our HOA president, a woman who used her title like it was a crown, reigning over our cul-de-sac like it was her own fiefdom. The irony, that permit she was threatening to tear up, I was the one who had signed, stamped, and handed it over. As the deputy director of city planning, I gritted my teeth, allowing her rant to go on. Her voice rose as she paced around the plywood base like a hawk stalking prey. She had no idea she was goading a bear. 2 weeks prior, I had finally gotten approval to construct a small office shed in the back, a sleek 120-square-foot prefab with solar panels and a skylight. My wife Sarah had advocated for it after getting fed up with me pacing on client calls in the kitchen. We adhered to every regulation, brought in plans, obtained zoning approval, and triple-checked the HOA's own bylaws. No limitations on structures less than 150 square feet. I was sure we were good to go. Next, Linda stormed in like a storm. The crew had just finished unloading when she hammered on my door, not to inquire, but to allege. "You're defying Section 3C of the HOA's exterior look code," she bristled, poking a manicured finger at me. I kept my cool and explained that the code only pertained to structures above 12 feet. My little bungalow was 9.6 feet tall. She sneered, as if I'd memorized gibberish, and stated the HOA hadn't approved it. I mentioned my permit, issued by the city, and she dismissed it. Stated visual harmony codes in the HOA trumped city ordinances. I came close to laughing, but suppressed it. She stormed off talking about calls, and that's when the skids flew out. A few days later, the city sent me a notice. My permit was under consideration because of community concerns submitted by the HOA. Linda had moved from neighborhood pest to bureaucratic disruptor, abusing mechanisms she didn't fully understand. Bonus? That consideration would run through my department. She'd thrown a grenade into her own backyard, not knowing I had the fire hose. I didn't retaliate, so far. I allowed her to think she was in control. She began sending HOA patrols, elderly neighbors with clipboards, who loitered, took photos, and threatened citations. I even spotted her measuring my lawn with a tape measure, grumbling about setback infractions. Resting on the fence, coffee cup in hand, I inquired whether she needed a calculator. She spat that she'd shut this down. Linda did not only aim at me, she attempted to get the entire neighborhood against me. She organized an emergency HOA meeting and distributed leaflets with the title, "Preserving Our Community's Charm," stating my shed would ruin house prices, invite rodents, and cast a shadow on the sun. She even threatened that it would interfere with Wi-Fi. My neighbor, a techie, laughed at that one. Never mind that the shed was smaller than most garages, tidily concealed behind my house, and entirely by the book. For Linda, it wasn't a matter of facts. It was about control. So I started documenting each and every trespassing incident, each and every email to the city posing as a zoning expert. Even her doorbell cam captured meltdowns. When she complained that my shed was too tall, I pulled out the blueprints, 9.6 feet. When she complained about the style, I referred her to the neighbor's gaudy pergola she'd never complained about. It hit me one evening when I was walking the dog. Linda was in the cul-de-sac boasting to a neighbor about her contacts at City Hall and how my permit would be revoked by Friday. "He doesn't know what he's doing," she joked. That did it. She'd swung once too often. That evening, I re-entered her grievances through the city system. They were a disaster. Counterfeit names of contractors, quoted codes inaccurately, even a report that my solar panels posed a flight risk. I created a case file named Civic Interference with Permitted Approvals and marked it for multi-departmental review. My city badge sparkled on the desk. This was no longer personal, it was official. The following morning, Linda pounced over anticipating failure. She found, however, that my team had stopped work for an infinitely greater play. When she knocked on the door, I opened it carrying a fresh permit. This one? State certified. It designated the shed as a green infrastructure project. Then she crossed the line. Linda hired a private inspector, actually just a retired handyman she met on Lanito, trespassed on my property taking pictures. My neighbor heard him boast he had no credentials. I made a police report. At work, my coworker Ellen laughed so hard she almost spilled coffee. She's trying to override a permit signed by the guy who signs them, she guffawed. We compromised that I would recuse myself from dealing with the case directly for openness, but I still consulted with the review team. Linda's letters were laugh-out-loud funny, quoting some arbitrary fire ordinances, reporting satellite interference, and dragging out the airplane thingy again. We even found out she put in solar heaters in 2010 without a permit. Her campaign turned into sheer desperation. She organized another HOA meeting and distributed a pamphlet with a photoshopped picture of my shed being a 5-story glass office building, saying I was opening a business with food trucks. She switched tracks 2 days later, accused me of constructing a party house with rowdy renters. Her deceptions did not last long. I put in a revised permit that necessitated a state green energy review, sealing the project from HOA control through the Clean Structures Act. I also submitted a proper complaint to the HOA for homeowner rights abuses. Then I sent each of the HOA board members a legal package, documenting Linda's lies, trespassing, and libelous postings, calling me a rogue builder. At the following HOA meeting, things turned around. Linda evaded questioning regarding her citations. Her home had flunked inspections, defective wiring, and illegal fence. Even the clubhouse she loved was closed down due to mold and fire code violations. Residents demanded explanations regarding fines and locked facilities. I stood up and introduced myself, Deputy Director of City Planning. Then I distributed copies of her altered complaints. The room became quiet, then murmurs passed around. One neighbor applauded, and then didn't. Linda's eyes fixed on the papers, visibly disturbed. Her power was eroding. An anonymous complaint sealed her fate. A city clerk sent me emails in which Linda had queried a so-called insider on how to create zoning violations. The proof, dated and attached, was condemning. I turned it over to the legal team. A full probe was initiated into municipal interference. Meanwhile, my own shed was done. Solar panels glinting, the interior completed. Neighbors who'd questioned my ability now inquired about blueprints. The city's probe revealed misuse of HOA funds. Linda had contracted her brother's company to work on landscaping her lawn. She was fined, prohibited from any future HOA role, and her brother's license was suspended. The community news even included a segment, HOA Power Trips, When Leaders Go Rogue, complete with blurred photos of Linda's iconic visor. The neighborhood finally relaxed again. Children zoomed around on bicycles. Porches buzzed with activity. The clubhouse opened up once more, but this time with a suggestion board. New HOA President Marvin asked me to assist in reinventing the system. We drafted open election policies and established senior community improvement grants. Strangers thanked me at a block party for speaking out, but I hadn't done it for applause. I'd done it because rules matter, because bullies like Linda rely on us to remain silent. My office shed, her war zone, had become my sanctuary. I hung a green certified state plaque where Linda would have to notice it. It shone like a sly punch. She now keeps her distance. Her voice, once so loud, has been muffled into nothingness. Sarah and I sat on the porch one night under a purple sky, crickets singing. "Did you ever think it would end like this?" she asked. I glanced at the shed, at the quiet street beyond, and smiled. "No," I told him. "But when one swings too hard, the system swings back harder, with patience, paperwork, and truth."